Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm reading today for Pisces energy, and yeah, I've definitely been in that kind of gorgeous, dreamy, loved up energy that Pisces can often bring, being ruled by Neptune. um Pisces does rule kind of like fantasy and make believe and imagination and all these gorgeous things that I think are not always valued by society. There may be something going on for you in that case with children. Perhaps you have a very creative child where the world and the education system at this time is, I am literally channeling as soon as I start this reading. This is just flowing, guys. I have got notes, but this is flow. And again, there's Pisces being a water sign. There is that energy of being in the flow, especially like the creative flow. That could be really important for somebody right now, like just rolling with it and going with it and not overthinking it, but just creating. um yeah, so somebody could have a child who's very creative, who has a very vivid imagination, who really loves engaging with make believe and fantasy and role play, whether that's through reading. Maybe they really love reading and writing their own stories. Maybe they love character creation, drawing, games that allow them to create characters. Maybe they are very engaged with computer games, or they have a certain, movie franchise or television franchise that they just absolutely, you know, it sparks that creativity and that joy within them. And how this is not necessarily valued by our society, and it's not what the education system currently has been aiming for. So people in kind of further education and media constantly talk about how the arts are underfunded, theatre productions, budgeting for movies, budgeting for the arts education in schools and the humanities in schools, where I think there's more emphasis and value at the moment placed upon the sciences, and especially mathematics. In the UK, the Prime Minister was pushing to have all children learn maths up until the age of 18, where previously it'd been 16. But not everybody is technically minded, right? We are left brain, right brain. Our brains are equal in terms of hemispheres. Yes, logic is important, but you can't have one that is valued more than the other. Our brains are 50-50. And I think we're in a society right now where, we're working really hard, we're earning money, we're doing the logical things, right? But that, I don't think we're giving enough time and emphasis on the importance of feeding the creative brain, right? Feeding the imagination. I've been talking about this a lot in Virgo's readings, about how there's a lot of science being done right now. You can go out, you can find scientific journals and things like this that talk about the resting state of the brain. So the natural state of the brain, and the natural state of the brain is actually when it starts to daydream, or when it starts to drift off into that kind of imagination space. So when we're not present, that is the resting state of the brain. So when we do things that engage with reality, right? When we start to write our jobs list, when we start to think of all the tasks that we have to do that day, when we're working hard, when we're solving problems, when we go into that more mathematical problem solving state, it's a stress state for our brain. It's not the natural state. So I think, we're the way that a lot of the world is set up right now, especially in kind of like Europe and America. We really have that focus on the logical thing to do, the right thing to do. And I think, by not giving ourselves enough time to enjoy hobbies, or do those creative processes, or even just stare out of the window and drift off into the imagination space, having our brains in that constant state of stress is very, very damaging for us, not only as an individual, but also as, the human race. We're not I see creativity as being linked to the soul, right? So somebody who creates a beautiful piece of art is doing soul expression, and how important that, as I'm saying this, the light is coming through. It's like God or the heavens is lighting up what I'm saying right now. Is the way it feels to me. And again, you don't have to agree with that. You don't have to subscribe to that narrative. I appreciate you all as individuals coming to this reading with your own thoughts and opinions, so you can validate what I say, and you know, if that resonates, great. But if this isn't something that's resonating with you, if this is something that you feel you have a different opinion about, or you have a alternate view on, that's absolutely great. You know, we're meant to have different opinions, we're meant to have different views. That's, you know, what stops us from being robots. And I think we're in a society that increasingly values robots and you know, replaces humans with robots, you know, like jobs with robots. I saw something on sorry, I'm really flowing, like the words are just flowing now, so if I am jumping from one thought to another, I am sorry. It's just part of the way that the energy is coming through for you, but it's really gorgeous, right? This idea of like just be in the flow, speak the ideas, speak the words as they come to you. You know, the idea of even channeling, like this is channeling, right? If you are a creative, you know, being in that creative flow and that creative process and just allowing yourself to go where that river takes you, I think is really, really important. Okay, they've switched. They've switched. Okay, I'm looking at the cards now. So I'm going to go through my notes. It's so strange. I've switched from creative to logic all of a sudden. It's like my guide has been replaced. It's like one step back and another step forward. I've gone from this gorgeous creative flow state to, okay, let's get the job done. Here's the notes, which is so fascinating to me. Your notes are about art and media, and that's what I was going to say. The idea of kind of, you know, viewing, you know, when you sit there, when you go to an art gallery and, you know, a particular piece of art catches your eye and there's just something about it, and it, you know, you can feel the tears coming. It connects to something inside of you. You have an emotional response to it. You know, and not all art will do that. There will be a specific piece that does that for you, where others not, you know, necessarily don't. Or, you know, it could, if it's not art, it could be a specific computer game that you play that particularly, you know, touches something in your experience and brings something to the surface. You know, a lot of people watch movies, or if they don't read movies, they read books. So any kind of creative media that you absorb and engage with, how that art form elevates you and elevates your experience, and how art is humanity, right? Art is an expression of what it is to be human and the human experience. And so to devalue that is to devalue humans. It's not healthy. It seems to be a big message that wants to come through with this. We will pull cards on camera, by the way, so I go through the intuitive messages first, and there's two different main messages coming through. So continuing with this fantasy reality thing, there's something coming through about how engaging with media or art, how it changes your brain. I was looking at some scientific research the other day that said when you read a book, and you are reading that first person narrative, your brain actually inserts you into that story. You become the main protagonist, even though the main protagonist is going to have a name and an identity. It's like you step into their shoes when you read the book. I think for most people, obviously there is always some diversity in human beings and human bodies and human minds, where, you know, some people don't have you know, the same flexibility of imagination. You know, some people just can't do that and access that. But again, there could be like different media works for different people. But anyway, yeah, so the idea of when you step into the shoes of, even if it's a piece of art, right? When you view a piece of art, the artist has painted that scene for you. You know, you are stepping into their perspective. And, you know, being in a movie, when you're following a certain character and you're seeing their experiences and you're seeing their point of view, and you start to think, what would I do in that situation? How would I react if that happened to me? So what this actually does to us is it rewires our brain. Our brain doesn't necessarily see a difference between a first-hand experience of, this is actually something that's happening to me, this is my lived experience, and a an imagined experience. So to the brain, the way the brain lights up, the way the brain reacts, based on this research that I was kind of looking at the other day, and of course there's probably more research out there, that yeah, the brain takes it as a first-hand experience. So where is the value of this? What can we do with this information? And it's similar to how there's research that says when you listen to music, your brain waves change to match the music waves. So if you're very, very stressed and you listen to calm music, and it depends on the situation, but what can happen is the brain starts to mimic the calmer waves of the music, and so your brain starts to calm down. Similar to like if you are feeling quite calm and you listen to kind of maybe heavy metal or something that's very spiky, your brain waves will become spiky. So taking this information, I think, thinking about Plato, is it Plato? Is one of the old Greek philosophers used to say, what stories do we tell our children, and what does this do? And so should we be teaching our children these stories of all these heroes that are flawed and these gods that do terrible things? Does that make them think that it's a good thing to do terrible things because that's what the heroes and the gods do? So these are all philosophies that have been around for a very long time. It's funny because you've got Pluto, but I'm reading it as Plato now. I feel like it's Plato. There could be something specifically about philosophy. Again, Pisces is ruled by it is a very philosophical sign. So yeah, and philosophy isn't a valued subject, right? There's the people say that, oh, you study philosophy and you don't get a job at the end of it. But I think perhaps, and I studied humanities, right? I studied an art subject, and I don't necessarily have a job that is, that degree has necessarily fed directly into. But I think the amount of information and learning and the experience that my soul gained through those 6 years of earning that degree, I'm a different person at the end of it than I was before it. And so yes, it might not have much value in the job market, but the value to me as a human with a soul that is learning and growing and becoming more knowledgeable of human experience, that's invaluable, right? That is incredibly valuable. And that feeds into something else that's been coming through for you, which I'm going to kind of jump over to, and then we'll jump back to the original kind of thing that I was talking about. So the other thing that's coming through for you really, really strongly is love and money. And it could be romance. So for some of you, it was coming through like maybe somebody has a partner who travels for work, even globally. Like it could be somebody who's a considerable distance from you, but it seems like this person was earning a lot of money through what they were doing for their career. So the example that I was kind of being given, and this isn't going to be for everybody, right, but it's just an example, would be somebody who is in the music industry. So somebody who's doing very well as a performer, and they might be on tour. So it's like their partner might be at home kind of watching the kids, or maybe they've got a job that is in a fixed location. So this idea of kind of like, well, I'm touring and I'm earning a huge amount of money and I'm being very, very successful in my career, but I actually just kind of want to be at home with the people I love. So this conflict coming through with love and money, it's like, what do I choose? Do I choose love or do I choose money? And you kind of, they're giving me that meme. I don't know if you've seen the meme with the little girl, and she goes, it's from an advert. I think it's like Old El Paso or something. And she goes, why not both? And everybody cheers. So universe is saying, why not both? Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't you have both? Why can't that work? And so this seems to be the question that Pisces is asking. Why can't I earn money from doing something that I love? Why does work have to be hard? Why does work have to be something that I have to do? Why are we almost why have we created this society for ourselves where we're all slaves to money, right? Where we're all slaves to having to pay those household bills? Is there a better way for society to rebuild itself? It's really interesting because there's some big elections coming up. The UK has an election tomorrow, and I think America's also kind of starting to go through an election process. So sorry, I'm not very. I'm not entirely looped in on that. For my own reasons. So yeah, this shifting that Pluto, because you do have the sign planet Pluto here, Pluto's been shifting recently between, it's kind of been dancing between Aquarius and Capricorn, and I've been talking about how Pluto, this planet of destruction and death and rebirth, right? It's like you have to end things to have something new. You know, the leaves fall off the trees every season so that they can grow again. Well, not every season, every autumn and winter, so that they can grow new fruit in the spring and the summer, you know? So there's a reason for the death and rebirth process. And so the idea of like death and rebirth in politics or as a society, as Pluto's been doing this kind of vulture-like cleanup work in Capricorn, and then moving through to and Capricorn is all about money and reputation, right? It's very, very capitalist. Not to say Capricorns are bad in any sort of way. They have a lot of good points, but you know, the work that Pluto could be doing in terms of Capricorn being a very traditional sign almost as well, like people, you know, exploring their own traditional values and do these make sense? Is there anything we need to leave behind in the past? And then Aquarius being a very liberal sign, a very innovative sign, a sign that's all about change and progress and community and improvements to technology. And so what work is Pluto going to do in this sign, where it starts to question a lot of the things we do as societies and politics and all these kind of things? What is Pluto going to, being this big change maker, what is going to happen over the next several years as it really gets into Aquarius proper? Now, I keep on thinking Pluto is out of Capricorn, but it keeps dipping its toes back in. And I think around this time, towards the end of the year, Pluto does go back into Capricorn again. And I really feel like we're going to see Pluto completing its job in Capricorn. It's like Pluto is going to, I'm hearing caretaker. It's like Pluto's going to go in as the caretaker of an abandoned building and just clear the halls, right? It's going to empty that building out. So it's kind of like going to do the finishing, they're showing me finishing touches on a cake. It's going to finish off the work that it's been doing in Capricorn for all that time. Projecting forward into the future, when Pluto goes through Pisces, after it's changed society and technology and all these kind of rules that Aquarius kind of deals with. So in several years' time, Pluto is going to go into Pisces, and we're going to see some, not only benefit from the big advances that Aquarius is going to give us, but then the imagination space and the potential of that in Pisces. I think we're going to have a lot of stuff where in the next 7 to 10 years, I think we're going to be able to put on a headset, like a VR headset, and just be like, okay, I want to play a game that is set in medieval times and I want these characters and I want to be playing it with this famous political figure. And you know, you're going to be able to just create your own story and create your own game instantly, like how you can generate an AI image now in seconds. You'll be able to generate a, kind of like in Star Trek. Have you ever seen that room that they go into in Star Trek where it's like a generated reality, and it's all going to be from our own imagination? So I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed, I think, just by looking at the way technology is going and then looking at the astrology as well and the potential of Aquarius and Pisces, which I think is going to be really useful. So I don't know if any of you, again, going back to philosophy, I'm sorry, I don't know why this reading is the way it is. Every reading is just waffle, but it's channeled waffle, right? So hopefully you're getting something out of this. Hopefully it's going to provoke you to think about certain things, even though I'm just running my mouth. We will pull cards though, I promise. Like, where's the potential for this? Where are the good points of this ability to, going back to that idea of kind of how engaging with media and creative art forms literally changes our brains, right? It programs our brains. So you could look at this of like the response. So do you remember there were all those movies that were kind of like survival movies, sort of towards the end of the 90s, the early 2000s. They were all like, you know, a big tidal wave destroys a city, or a big volcano, you know, does this. And there were all these kind of natural disaster or big disaster movies. And then we actually start to see a lot of big disasters in the world. And I think there could be something about programming the collective consciousness, but also kind of like when you've read something in a book, or when you've seen something in a movie and it's programmed a response into your brain, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? When you go into that situation in real life, you're going to have that programmed response, right? You're going to be like, well, I did this in that computer game and this happened. So if you ran away and survived, your instinct is going to be to run away and survive. If you ran away and that wasn't the right choice, you might think of a different thing to do, right? So we could talk about simulators, you know, like for a long time things have existed like pilot simulators, aeroplane simulators. My dad used to play these, and he actually got a pilot's license. Driving simulators, when you're doing your driving test, right, you do these simulated videos where you kind of like have to spot hazards. So there's so many simulations you could run using technology that could train us. They could give us programmed responses so that we know what to do in emergencies. You know, there's so much potential there. But also, as well, we could flip that and talk about how easy it is to get lost in a movie or a book or a computer game and kind of waste hours, you know, in that alternate reality. And so this leads me to the philosophy of the experience machine. So you can just Google this if you want more information. It's a set philosophy, the concept of the experience machine. I think it came out of like maybe the mid-century, and it was kind of, it was like, okay, so imagine you could get hooked up into a machine that simulates your reality. Would you choose to do that, right? Would you choose to live your life in a alternate reality? And so then that raises lots of other follow-up questions, right? And other scenarios, which are really interesting to engage with. But that's a reality now, where it was a philosophy for them when they originally thought of this. Now it's a reality. Now it's something that is becoming increasingly possible with things like VR. So I don't know. My notes then start to talk about so not only gaining experience, but satisfying human needs via media. So say, for example, you are not in a relationship, but you have a need to be loved. You might, or need to be physically touched. You might read a lot of romance novels, right, to satisfy those needs. Because, or, you know, playing a computer game that's got a romantic theme. You know, a lot of people use AI dating apps, you know, where it's kind of like you've got like a little, what's that film, Her, Her, is it Scarlett Johansson plays like a computer assistant, but the guy falls in love with her. Really, really interesting movie, definitely recommend it. Yeah, the need for physical human touch and physical interaction, but also how our brain responds to simulated situations in the same way it does to real situations. It's still releasing the same chemicals, it's still releasing the same hormones, it's still satisfying those needs, right, to a certain extent, which could be good or bad. It's like, it doesn't seem to be telling me that this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's like, this is something that's happening that we need to ask questions about. It seems to be the angle that this is coming through. And again, maybe you've got a kid who's just playing too many computer games. Maybe you are, you know, reading a lot of romance novels. I don't know. But for each of you, this will be something that comes up for you in the next several years, because it's how society is, right? Whether you're choosing to see this as a bad thing and you want to disengage and have real lived experiences with real people, or you're leaning more into it more heavily and you're thinking, yeah, I do choose to live alone and, get my dopamine and whatever chemicals it is from, media. People are going to have different responses, and that's okay, but it will be a topic that you're dealing with. Again, it could be your kids, it could be the next generation. There's something about teaching empathy. Especially with animals. So if anyone's having trouble being empathetic, they could be like digipets, like neopets sort of thing. What are those little things called that we had in the late 90s? So it's like caring for a digital animal it could still teach empathy, even if you can't have a real animal, something like that, if that's something that you're doing with children. But then obviously that also comes up with the idea of kind of like, well, it's not real, so I can just turn it off, and discard it and throw it away. I don't know what happened to my little digipet. I don't know what happened to it. What were they called? They were like little eggs. Like the device looked like a little egg, and you had like a little digital pet. It's because they were really annoying. Like, it's not so much that I didn't love the pet, it's that the coding was bad and they were just really needy and it was very time consuming, and yeah, like it was more annoying than a real pet. Yeah, I don't know. My note says it doesn't matter what you care about. What matters is that you care. So there seems to be placing an importance on the ability to care, the ability to have empathy, the ability to value something in itself is important. And it doesn't necessarily matter what it is you care about, as long as you have the ability to care, whether it's you're caring about something that's real or not real. The fact that you care, even if it's a character in a book or a game or a movie, the fact that you care about what happens to them is empathy. And so there seems to be something really important about the ability to care in itself. There's also something coming through about this idea of like survival of the fittest. Apparently, again, this was just from a TikTok, so I've read Origin of the Species. I remember a lot of stuff about pigeons, but apparently, according to this lady on this TikTok video, which again is just one person's opinion and I haven't fact checked it, but they were saying that Charles Darwin he actually really didn't like the phrase survival of the fittest, and he didn't like the way that people talked about it, because it's similar to how people talk about being an alpha, being the alpha wolf. If you actually look at wolf behavior, there's no such thing as alpha wolves. It's just a family of wolves, and you have the male and female couple that are more experienced and older that look after the rest of the family. But this idea of like the way people talk about being an alpha is actually completely made up and not really something that happens in nature. Again, go and do your own research on that. But survival of the fittest, Charles Darwin actually had an issue with this because people took it as being the strongest, being the smartest, being the fastest. And Darwin, what he actually meant and the way he viewed humanity was that humanity was so successful as a species because of its ability to care for each other, because it had developed empathy, because we survived as a tribe, as a society, as a group, because we had the ability to empathize with somebody else's plight and share with them and help each other. And so this was actually what he saw as being incredibly strong and what made us an alpha, if you want to use that term, a dominant top of the food chain, kind of extremely good at surviving species, was not because we were strong. Because if it was just that we were strong, the cavemen, right, the Neanderthals would still be around. They'd smash us with a rock and they would be the dominant species. But they're not, right? They want like we survive because we're so good at collaborating. We survive because we're so good at building together, because we can form societies, because we do have safety nets in place, like for example the NHS or welfare systems that make sure we all look out for each other and we survive as one giant family. And then we can see how destructive it is, how we don't survive when we start to fall out, because then we have things like war, right? And it's like, I don't know. There's something really important about that as well, I think. Which is interesting, the cards that have actually come out to you with Pluto, because Pluto is death and destruction and endings. And not only that, right? To me, he's kind of, I associate him not only with the god Pluto and the god Hades, but also gods like Dispater, who was another Roman god, and this idea of kind of the rich one. So these gods actually, yes, they were gods that ruled the underworld, but they weren't necessarily harbingers of death. They were they had a job to do within the earth. And it's particularly talking about people like Dispater, who's probably one of my favorite gods. He was known as like the rich one as well, because, excuse me, his job was not only to keep the dead in where they should be and stop them kind of running around all over the world wreaking havoc, but to with the idea of kind of like death and composting and biodegrading and things like this. His job was to put minerals back into the earth and to put nutrients and gemstones and gold and metals into the earth, because what gets returned to the earth provides for the land above. So you could see him as a type of fertility god, or a nature god in that way, which I think is a really beautiful way and a very healthy way of looking at a god associated with death and destruction. Is also this idea of renewal and transformation, rather than just endings and destruction, which I think, if you look at certain world religions, the idea of kind of like the one that lives under the earth is particularly malevolent. And I don't think that the Roman gods necessarily were malevolent. That's a whole other story. Like, we could get into that, but yeah. But what's interesting with this idea of Pluto, along with the knight and the sword. Now, the knight is somebody who takes action, but they take action in a very honorable way. It's like they have a journey to go on, they have a job to do, they have a mission to accomplish, but they have good values, right? They have the word that I'm trying to say, the word that I can see in my mind is gentility, but I don't know if that's actually a word. Let me just Google it. It feels like it could be a word, but I don't know if it is, but that's what I'm seeing. Gentility. Yeah, it is gentility. Social superiority. No way. Oh my God, I love it so much. Let me show you. Social superiority is demonstrated by polite and respectable manners, behavior, or appearances. So it's like, rather than gaining social superiority by force, it's gaining social superiority by earning respect through being a good person, right? Through treating people well, through having good manners and being respectful. It's like respect. You gain respect by giving respect, that kind of thing. That's really interesting. I love that. I've been taught a new word. And then the sword to me is not only, you could see death and the sword as being the bringer of death, right? The tool, the instrument of death. But it's more than that. In my own deck, the sword talks about truth and honor and visibility, and because you can't hide a sword, right? A sword was a status symbol of kings. You'd have like long swords and great swords, or a status symbol of a knight, right? You'd want to have a really good sword. And if you were, a very equestrian knight or a very rich king, and again we have the rich one, your sword would be decorated with gemstones and gilded, and maybe some colorful fabric on the grip to make it comfortable. So it was something that was visible. It was a symbol of authority. It was something that was seen, right? Yes, this character seems to have had a job to do, but it's more than that, right? It's a job to do with uh, a huge amount of respect and um, honor and visibility. This is not something that's kind of hidden or malicious or negative in any sort of way, which is a really fascinating combination of cards to me. I'm getting a bit warm. I'm just going to take my sweatshirt off. Excuse me a sec. So I'm really interested to see what more we get from this. The funny thing is, now I have been playing a computer game myself called Baldur's Gate, which I'm not going to get into too much, but there is something about a squirrel. So if you have a certain character who is particularly destructive, there's a specific squirrel that they get into a bit of an altercation with. And there's something about that. So I'm just trying to pull that in. I'm sort of sitting here thinking, why is the squirrel here? So the squirrel is a character for me in my own deck that saves for the future, right? They save for a rainy day. They manage their resources. They don't just kind of spend all their money all at once. They think, okay, well, or say, for example, if we're talking about autumn, winter, summer, spring, I could just say the seasons, but I decided to name them all. It's kind of like, say you went out and you grew some crops and you harvested all your berries. You could make preserves out of those berries. You could eat them, or you could turn them into pies. You could give them, you could indulge yourself, or you could turn some into preserves and have these sweet berries throughout the whole of the winter months and the spring months until the crops grow again. And so there is something about being very fastidious. Again, who's got a dictionary? Who's out there, sat there with the big words, right? Because you're getting some big words. Maybe somebody has got like a dictionary or a thesaurus that they're using a lot at the moment. Again, maybe somebody is a writer. So it's that idea of kind of not repeating words too often. You've repeated that word 3 times in that paragraph. Maybe we could use a different word. Maybe we could replace it. Maybe this is something again with parents and kids. I used to work at a school and we used to have lollipop sticks of common words and common feelings and emotions. So say, a child was using the word sad a lot. You'd say, go to the lollipop sticks and pick a different word for sad, right? And they'd look at the different sticks and, they'd find one that they liked, and it'd be, I can't think of any other words for sad. My mind's gone blank. I don't know, but there could be something in that, right? There could be something in that process that could be helpful to somebody, like a little tip. I find myself repeating. The older I get, the more I repeat words. And I read things back that I've wrote and I'm like, oh my God, I sound so repetitive. I sound like Rain Man sometimes. I say and like too much as well. I really annoy myself with that. Okay. Pisces, who are your guardians at the moment? Who is looking out for you? Ooh, I love her. She reminds me of Salma Hayek. You've got Saint Teresa on the bottom. Simplicity, devotion, and empathy. This does look a bit like the good girl, bad girl kind of polarization of women in media. So a lot of the time, women in media, you have 2 women. Because a lot of media, like films and TV and things like that, traditionally are written by men. And so you have the male protagonist, and then you have the 2 love interests, and you have like the good girl and the bad girl, right? So this is the one that he marries at the end. This is the one that he has some sexy fun time with, but she's evil. She turns out to be a witch or something. So very, very traditionally throughout the creation of media, you have these very 2-dimensional narratives, right? You have Mother Teresa or Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, and you have Mary Magdalene, right? You have the 2. You're either a good virginal woman of faith, or you're modest, high collar, or you're the temptress, the seductress, the siren, the Eve. You're the snake in the tree, right? So but it's very, very, it's very one-dimensional. It's very much written from the male protagonist's perspective, historically speaking. So if you're watching this and you're male and you're thinking, I don't think women are two-dimensional characters. I have empathy for them. I know that a woman can feel like this on one day and then feel like this on another day, and they're just as valid, right? The idea of, and I talk about this a lot in Libra's readings, the idea of being multifaceted and not being one thing but being multiple things, and having different surfaces and different faces that you can put forward in different situations depending on your mood and depending on, you know, what you're experiencing in your life at that time. So, you know, somebody may dress like this in their 20s, you know, when they're trying to attract a partner, and then, you know, they may think, well, I don't really want to get, you know, maybe they have a partner, they have children, and then they go a bit more motherly because they're like, well, I don't really want that kind of attention anymore. And again, that is a two-dimensional narrative that I'm talking about there as well. But you know, what is it? Something in the streets and there's something between the sheets. What's that saying? This is really beautiful though. And the wonderful thing about Ishtar is it's one of those cards that rethinks those old conservative narratives, because she's absolutely stunning. She is more like the Roman gods, and I love the Roman gods. She is more like the role of Venus to the Romans, who was this kind of very, very sensual, very sexy mother goddess. She was a nurturer, she was a protector, and she was fierce. And this was not seen as a bad thing by the Romans. It was by the Greeks a little bit more with Aphrodite, but again, different perspectives, different societies. So feminine power, sexuality, and heaven on earth. So this idea of it not being something that is, you know, a temptress or a devil or a seductress, but something that is celebrated by the forces of light, celebrated by the heavens, celebrated because this is the, and I'm not saying what a woman should or shouldn't be, right? I think that is for the individual to choose, but this idea of like hyperfemininity and hypersexuality, you know, that you normally see in goddesses like Venus, being something that is warm and loving and human and natural, because it is. And it's not something that should be hidden, or it's not something that should be taken for granted, or you know, her boundaries crossed in any sort of way. But the ability to be this strongly and fiercely with the light of God behind you is incredible. I think I really love cards like this. So, and when I say the word God, it's whatever deity or whatever God means to you, right? And it doesn't have to be a personification. You know, love is God. Love is God. That's from Heather's. Let's have a read of this card. Maybe this reminds you of somebody. Maybe you had somebody in your family who was like this. It's very Venus, so it could be talking Taurus, Libra energy. Perhaps you have this in your chart. And I opened it right on Ishtar. It's like she was waiting to talk. Feminine power, sexuality, heaven on earth. Ishtar, or Inanna, is considered to be the oldest deity known to date and is older than any of the male gods. Like, this girl is showing up. An ancient Sumerian, I'm actually just going to stop and restart for a second just because I've got over the 40-minute mark and it mucks up my audio. Hold on. Okay. So an ancient Sumerian and Babylonian goddess. She was said to be the daughter of Enki, the queen of the heavens, and a goddess of love, sex, beauty, war, justice, and political power. Very, very Libran with the justice and political aspects. Venerated in many different areas by different groups, it's unclear exactly what the origins and worship of Ishtar looked like, but it has been suggested that the priestesses of Ishtar were sacred prostitutes. Men could be initiated into Ishtar's cult and become priests, although they often went against gender norms and took on female names and dressed in female clothing. That's really interesting. Again, I mentioned Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate draws on Dungeons and Dragons, that old tabletop game, and I play that as well. And so my character is a cleric, which means that she has a patron goddess, and her patron goddess is this goddess called Elistrae. I can't say it. But there's a similar thing with her as well, where the priestesses are priestesses, they're female, but she has this unique thing within her um, religion where when a male wants to join her um, priestess priestess group, her worshippers, her followers, they actually transform into a woman, which I think is really fascinating. And it's interesting that that has precedent in one of the oldest religions in the world, and yet there's so many modern religions who see that as something wrong, where I love the concept of being whole, right? The idea that we're not one thing, right? That we are multifaceted, that we are born of both light and shadow, a bit like yin yang, right? And we have to figure out our own path with that and come to terms with our darker natures, and not be ruled by them, but to rule them. And Carl Jung and the golden shadow and all that kind of stuff. And so, excuse me, the idea of not just seeing ourselves as one thing and labeling ourselves as such, but to be, it's funny because we were talking about flow at the beginning of the reading, but to be in flow and to have empathy and to be able to see whether it's an imagined experience or something that you are experiencing through the eyes of others, sort of like reading a book from another person's perspective, maybe an autobiography of somebody, and to see that although perhaps this isn't your lived experience, this isn't your persona, your ego, right, that may identify a certain way, that you can imagine and have a simulated experience as what it's like to be of a different gender or of a different background or a different ethnic group or a different religion, to be able to project yourself through the narrative of another is incredibly interesting and incredibly powerful, I think. And I think we need more of that. There's a lot of dialogue in social media these days and in the news about how the genders actually seem to have split recently. For example, especially politically, women tend to be a lot more likely to be on the left side of politics, and men seem to be a lot more likely to be on the right side of politics. And I think, some of the problem with social media, as great as it is for connecting people, it also divides people. And I think this has been a particular problem that social media platforms have faced. That the most extreme views, the most shocking views, the opinions, I mean, when I say views, the most shocking, polarized opinions get the most clicks, and they get the most engagement, and they get the most views. So people want that, right? They mimic that, they copy that. And so to get more views on show, and I use social media a lot, I'm familiar with this. I've had this happen to me where I've said something that is maybe a little bit off the mark, maybe a little bit of a against the grain opinion. Not that it's wrong, right or wrong, and I don't think we should necessarily think of opinions as being right or wrong. It's an opinion, right? It's an individual's view based on their own experience, and I don't think we should illegitimize or minimize a person's viewpoint, whether we think it's right or wrong. Discourse is great, explaining and sharing is great, but and questioning. But I think what happens a lot on social media is that we shut down the other. We say you're wrong, I'm going to block you, I'm not going to talk to you. And it just makes these bubbles that used to overlap in society, and where there wasn't discourse, get pushed more into more polarized bubbles and views, where people are just they block the people that have another opinion, and they just get people soundboarding their own opinion back to them, which makes them feel more and more validated in that opinion, right? Rather than engaging with people of an opposing opinion and trying to learn about why they have that opinion and trying to share about why you have yours. So this gender split, basically, of what it is to be a male and what it is to be a female, seems to have, through engagement of social media, seems to be more and more polarized. So maybe this is a stereotype, and maybe people have their own projected ideas onto this. So if you're female, don't let anybody else tell you what being female should look like. If you identify as female, no matter what your birth sex was, and you think a female you want to look like this, look the way that you want to look, but be aware that other people are going to have opinions about how you look and how, you know. And I think that it's that thing about, just because people, nobody, you're never going to be 100% perfect, right? In society's eyes, there's always going to be mixed opinions. There's always going to be the mainstream idea of what the ideal woman should be, and that ideal is going to change. And not only is that idea going to change, but you're also going to have countercultures, right? People who disagree, people who see values in different things. So it's like, I heard this story the other week about, it was one of those Reddit stories, am I the asshole? And it was this guy who, his girlfriend, who he loved and thought was beautiful, in his, this is his narrative, right? This is from his point of view. She had a lot of work done, and it wasn't just one thing, right? It wasn't gradual. It was, she went off to, you know, some clinic and came back with an entirely different face, and it freaked him out. It was like uncanny valley, if you're aware of the concept of uncanny valley. And she didn't look like herself anymore, and it made him uncomfortable. And as much as he loved her for who she was, he wasn't really sexually attracted to her because of this uncanny valley feeling. And so she got really upset by this and really huffy. And they, you know, went off to stay with her sister. And he's like, he said, I didn't want to say anything, you know, I didn't want to tell her how I felt because I didn't want to upset her, but she demanded an answer. She thought I was having an affair. And so eventually I told her that I didn't like the way she looked. And, you know, this is what she got upset about. But he said at the beginning, you know, he told her that he didn't want her to have the surgery done, and she went and did it anyway, and then got upset with him for not loving it. So again, it's not like who's the asshole, pick a side. You know, it's a situation with, you know, complex moments where both partners could have been a little bit more communicative or a little bit more respectful of the other's opinion throughout the whole process on both sides. But yeah, it's like, you know, the woman in that situation, you know, clearly didn't feel like she looked the way she wanted to look. And so she had an ideal of how she wanted to look in her head, changed herself to look that way, but it wasn't his ideal, right? They had a different opinion of what was beautiful. So clearly this character's encouraging people to be very, very confident in any spaces where they feel like their hyperfemininity wants to come through and wants to feel empowered. Yeah, I don't know, interesting. The oracle here says that the power and strength of the goddess resides within you. You can get through any battle or difficulty you encounter. Embrace and enjoy the power of your sexuality and humanness. So it doesn't even have to be that this is something that's presented to the world. It doesn't even have to be something that, you know, is seen about you. You know, if you choose to dress perhaps more demurely because that helps you to, I don't know, you're in a society where people, where this blends in, right? Where this is accepted and where this is unproblematic. So you can go out to the shop and buy a pint of milk, right? And come home and not feel harassed, you know? So it could be that you choose to present this way to, you know, as your ego, as your persona, the side of you that presents to the world, where, you know, perhaps this is more you behind closed doors or with a certain partner, or maybe this is just how you feel internally, even though, you know, to the world you look like this. You know, the way that we feel about ourselves doesn't necessarily have to be reflected in the way that we dress. There can be an inner confidence and an outer humility, for example. Interesting. We're getting some interesting stuff coming through already, right? Because that's a very, very feminine card. Let's go to my this deck. It's the Rose Oracle, the Light Seers Oracle, the Starseed Oracle, I think, all by the same creator. How is Spirit helping Pisces at this time? How is Spirit helping Pisces? What is Spirit's message to Pisces? Let me rephrase the question. What is Spirit's Message to Pisces at this time. They might want this for your advice card. I'll give it one more try. No, we've got some, and some of it's hidden. Yeah, definitely. I want to say there's a side of you that's hidden. Okay, you've got dance with life, do something to change your energy. Even if you just sexy dance in the privacy of your own home when nobody's around to see you, right? Close all the windows, light a candle, put on some music that you really like to move your body to, and just enjoy your body, right? Nobody needs to know. And then the sacred waters, nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, and self-care. Seems like have a bed day. Just have a day in your pajamas, dancing around the house. Don't do any chores. Get into bed. Feel good about your body, you know? I don't know. The sacred water. Take it as you will. Do something to change your energy. And then nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, self-care. So I was actually going to have a bed day today. I didn't go to sleep when I should have done. I went to sleep late, and I've got a bit of a cold, and I woke up early, and then I couldn't get back to sleep. So I didn't have a good night's sleep. And I was like, do you know what? Because it's like Four of Swords energy, right? So I was like, I need to rest. I need to sleep this off. But I kind of got back in bed and couldn't sleep. So I was like, I need to do Pisces' reading. I might go back to bed later. Like when it's uploading or something, I'll be like, I'll have a nap. But yeah, this idea of... maybe you're feeling particularly tired, or you feel like you're stuck in a rut. So the idea of like nourishment, what does your body need? There's a lot of like physical body awareness in this reading today. Self-care, rest, you know, and again, this idea of like rest and self-care. Maybe you do need to do something that's a creative hobby. Maybe you do need to read a book, or, you know, chill out and watch a movie. But I think choose carefully is one of the messages. You know, if you're looking to rest and you're looking to chill out, maybe picking a horror movie or listening to heavy metal might not be the right thing. Because remember this thing about your brain waves, like your brain is simulating the experience. So if you're looking to de-stress, you know, watching a stressful horror movie might not be the right thing to do. So, you know, you may not be the type of person. Maybe listening to heavy metal is particularly cathartic for you. Maybe that exercises a few of the stress demons that have been clinging onto you. I totally see that. Whatever you need to do, but do it with this awareness of this is going to really... my brain is going to run this as a simulation, and in response it's going to release certain chemicals. So like when you're watching a horror movie, right, your brain releases those fight or flight response chemicals. When you're watching a romantic comedy, your brain releases all those yummy endorphins and, you know, happy hormones and loved up hormones. So just think before you engage in something. Don't just watch something because it's on. You know, choose your book, your game, your movie with that awareness that it's going to change your brain chemistry and actually change you a little bit as a person, because you're having an experience that you're not actually having, right? So if you watch, have you ever done that where you've watched a particular, maybe like a docudrama, and it's particularly traumatic and particularly difficult to watch? I had this with House of Dragons recently, and I know that's not a docudrama, but there was a particular scene, and it really shook me. Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, if you're watching kind of these real life documentaries of like awful things, what is that actually doing to you? Like, what is that doing to your brain chemistry? It's the same thing with, like, I was talking about politics and how I know enough about politics. I mean, I'm very informed about politics, but I'm informed in a way where I'm not necessarily watching I'm informed about how politics works, right? The framework of politics. And I engage, I research, I go and search for the information that I need to make an educated choice, where I'm not watching the mainstream media. I'm not watching the news on the TV. I'm not reading the newspapers, because I'm aware of how this idea of drip feeding propaganda, you know, if you say something every single day and you hear it often enough, it becomes a fixed opinion. And so I don't want to be coerced in any kind of way like that. And also, if you watch the news, it's so depressing. Like, no wonder everybody's miserable. I've never felt better than when I stopped watching the news. Like, I was so miserable when I used to watch the news, and I think it's designed to do that. It's all doom and gloom, and the world's ending, and people are terrible, and again, you're watching someone else's presentation of a certain aspect of the world, and a lot of the news that sells is tabloid and sensationalism. It's designed to provoke an emotional response from you so that you buy the newspaper or you keep watching. I remember watching it's funny, Twin Towers has come up twice for you in the reading. When I was talking about my dad's flight simulator, it was, we were playing it post the Twin Towers coming down, but the game was created when the Twin Towers were up, so you could fly a plane past the Twin Towers. Actually, we flied the plane through the Twin Towers, and we looked at each other and felt absolutely awful. We were like, we're terrible human beings. Like, what did we just do? Which we're not, right? We were playing a computer game. It was pixels. It was just kind of like, oh, we can do that. And then we did it, and we were like, wow, that feels weird. And so, yeah, and then it's come up again for you. It's like, I remember hearing about it and not realizing what it meant until I went home and switched on the news and I saw all the coverage. And it's like I was glued to it, right? I was just so shocked by what had happened. And it's funny because I was talking about those kind of movies as well, right? And it's like doom scrolling, right? It's I'm not saying we shouldn't know. I'm not saying we should turn away and just ignore what's happening in the world. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that it's so easy to get stuck in they're showing me like a well or a pit. It's like, it's so easy to get stuck in a well or pit of like a hyper focus on the drama, a hyper focus on the doom. And like, what is that doing to us collectively as a society? Where it's better to be able to, like Aquarius, right, take one step back, assess the situation, look for the facts, search for information in an informed way, more of an academic approach as to what's happening, so that you feel informed, like you feel like you've got the facts, but you're not getting the facts through tabloid or sensationalist media. You're getting it through the statistics and the facts and the figures and the reports, that are published. And then also not taking anything at face value, but making your own informed choices about that. What else, please, for Pisces? Oh, we had some cards that hid, didn't we? And I never looked at them. Trust and change. I love it. I'm telling you that Aquarius energy is coming through. The word change has been coming through repeatedly, which is interesting because that is used in UK politics at the moment. And I wouldn't like to try and predict who's going to win the election or where this is going to go. When I actually tried to predict it, just for my own curiosity, I was shown a pen spinning. I don't know if I can simulate that, but it was like a pen and it was spinning. So I think that's still in flux. What was hidden was Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the life, laying foundations and divine plan, which is absolutely gorgeous, and the crowning. Initiation, thresholds, birth, rebirth, a seat at the table. How ultra feminine, how wonderful, how respectful and religious and divine these figures are. Not only do you have a god before all the other gods, this feminine superpower of a god, but you've also got, and I mentioned Mother Mary, right, the Virgin Mary, and I mentioned Mary Magdalene, who was the love of Jesus, right? Some people say she was the wife of Jesus, so the mother of Jesus's children in certain belief systems. People disagree on that, as people want to do. But you've also got Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. So this feminine power, right? This real hyper feminine maternal energy coming through, kind of maiden mother crone energy. Absolutely fascinating. Maybe somebody is, because you've got trust the change as well, right? And these both have eggs on. So the woman's in the egg, you've got the ducks with the nest, and the thunder moon, which is also an egg. So again, it's like being inside the womb and then being outside the womb. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of, because you've got 23 here and then 32, and then here it's 12. I don't know, just something about the numbers. 23 is obviously the reversal of 32, and 31 that. So this, it could be something about ages. Somebody could be in their early 30s, or it could be talking about a woman in the 20s versus a woman in the 30s versus a woman in the 40s, 50s, 60s, right? And how, again, that kind of maiden mother crone energy. But whatever this is, whatever's crowning, and it doesn't have to be literal birth, right? It's something that's potential. It's a change that's in the air. Seeding the light, the crowning, rebirth. It's like generational, like, because you've got the squirrel as well, right? The squirrel that's planting those seeds. And what does the squirrel plant, right? But the acorns, and the acorns grow into the trees of the future, and they are the seeds of the current trees. So, and rainbow underneath that, which is this symbol of incredible hope. Don't fear change, trust the change, because it's like it's all part of the divine plan. It's part of God's plan for the future races, for the future children, for the future generations, for the future of Earth. This change is divinely guided. Surrender to the change. And look at how he's looking up at the heavens. There's something really big happening. And it seems to be saying to me, the divine has a plan, Pisces. It's almost like it's written in the stars. The divine is intervening because the divine cares about the survival of the planet, the survival of the species. And so the children that are being born, right, the seeds that are being laid, the foundations that are being laid for the future. So it can be talking about people, things, right? Procedures, policies. It's all part of the divine plan. So rather than trying to resist it like this woman here, it's telling you to surrender to it. Allow the changes to happen. It could be menopause, right? As well. Initiation. A seat at the table. Women getting seats at the table. Women being empowered. Women being like, hey, we're half of society. We want half of the pay. We want half of the power. We want half of the, and again, like, I'm not talking about that kind of like, that's true feminism, right? When people, if anyone's coming here who has maybe a diverse idea or an alternative idea of what I mean when I talk about these things. So when I say feminism, I'm talking about equality. I'm talking about 50-50. I'm talking about respect, choice, both, all genders being able to say, this is what I choose to do, and I don't want to be confined by the sex that I was given at birth. I don't want to just have to, I don't know, be a soldier because I'm a man, or be a housewife and a mother because I'm a woman. It's talking about respect for each other, empathy, understanding, and individuality, where you say, okay, what do you want? What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to work? Do you want to, how does this work in terms of each individual couple, or, whatever your relationship looks like, and it's about understanding the partner and doing something that brings you life and doesn't feel humdrum or mundane or forced because of stereotypes, which is really powerful. And so what I'm not talking about is that kind of very polarized, very extreme feminism where it's like, well, men are, some people who call themselves feminist hate men and think that the male population should be suppressed because the female population has been historically suppressed through a lot of history. And so it's kind of like, well, it's our turn now. I don't agree with that. I don't think two wrongs make a right in that way. I think center ground is a really center ground, and individualism, which again is ruled by Aquarius, are much more important, I think, much healthier. And that's what Charles Darwin wanted, right? He wanted people to have empathy and work together. So Maybe someone's kid's learning about Charles Darwin. I don't know. I've got a very, very old copy of Origin of the Species. It's not worth anything. I got it from a charity shop. It's a bit crumbly, but yeah. Kindness on the bottom. This talks about, it's almost like karma. This talks about a princess that or a woman who was, I think she was like married to the queen from what I remember, and she was really kind to the animals. She always like fed the bats and, you know, took care of nature. And so something happened and she was exiled, and she was kind of abandoned on a small island, and she would have starved except for all the animals found her and repaid her kindness. They all brought her fruit and, you know, things that she needed, and so her kindness was repaid. So it really is a story about karma and how important it is to be kind, because and obviously I'm seeing like I'm seeing inside the apples. It's like the seeds in the apples, right? Because making choices that are kind seeds your own future, right? And what you put out comes back to you down the line. Home earth. Look at all the fruit. Maybe you do need to like plant some fruit trees or something. Okay, Pisces, you've got so much, and it's so beautiful, and I knew it. I could feel it in your energy that this was going to be a really beautiful reading. So yes, just to kind of finish up on that, this idea of like a change is coming. Trust that this is for the greater good. Trust this is for the future. Trust that this change is divinely guided and necessary. Surrender to it, and you know what? Take a step back, let it happen, and just go and have a nice warm bath. Go and like live your life. Like don't worry about it, right? Trust that this is meant to be, and do the things in the day-to-day that bring you pleasure and that bring kindness and love to the people in your immediate vicinity, right? Seed the light where you can, because it's kind of like, you know, imagine being in a room with two people, and one person's really positive and optimistic and realist. You know, they're not, it's not that they're rose tinted in any sort of way, but this person's going, okay, this is the situation. It's not all doom and gloom. Think about, have you ever watched Russell Howard? You know, he's so satirical and he makes fun, but he's also bright, right? He always ends his TV show with a nice story. And he makes you laugh and he makes you smile, and he brings light into the room, even though some of the topics he's covering are a little bit dark or a little bit worrying. And so imagine someone like that, and then they're giving me Sagittarius energy there, and then imagine somebody who is extremely negative and really worried and all doom and gloom, and they're that Eeyore energy, and they're like, oh, it's gonna go wrong, this is gonna happen, oh. Who would you rather spend your time with, right? Who has the more potential energetically to do good in the world and to make a difference? And you know, when you get in that low vibrational energy of despair and doom and gloom and doom scrolling and oh my god, the world is awful, people are horrible, there's no hope for humanity, you get into this state of apathy and patheticness. I'm using pathetic in like the old sense of the word, where you can't be bothered getting out of bed, right? Nothing matters. Why does it matter if I eat? You know, because the world's so awful, you know. So it's a really low vibrational energy that means that it's almost like that pit, right? It's like you're getting swallowed by the pit. Yeah, that's a beautiful. Sorry, sometimes they flash up images in my eyes, like I was being shown the seeds in the apple. When I say they, I just mean my guides when I'm channeling. I don't know where the images come from. It might just be my own weird brain, right? But I was shown Never Ending Story. And you know how the big bad in Never Ending Story is this energy that just makes everybody really sad and hopeless and depressed, which is to me the most terrifying enemy in any of these kids' movies. And there's that horrible scene with the swamp where he's trying to get his horse, I'm going to cry, he's trying to get his horse out the swamp, and the horse before his eyes just gives up and dies, right? In the swamp, he just gives up. And how awful that is, that he just gives up hope. And so to be a source of light, to be a source of humor in dark times, to be somebody who can see the glass half full even when it's got a hole in the bottom and it's draining, right? It's like the person who looks for solutions and has the energy to implement them is much more useful. It's a higher vibrational energy and it's energized, right? They're not in that swamp. They're swimming. They're not drowning, they're swimming. And so I think there's something really important about your ability to seed hope in others and to not fall prey to that swamp yourself, but and it's hard to do, right? So having those survival mechanisms in place, having those tools in place that you can engage with to get yourself out of those funks. So again, whether it's doing something, I'm just thinking about my spirograph. So it's whether it's doing something like spirograph, right, where it's like you can switch off your brain, but it's cathartic, or whether, you have the self-awareness of like, I need to switch off the news and watch, I don't know, I'm thinking of like, Shaun of the Dead, which is funny because it's an apocalypse movie, right? So Shaun of the Dead, it's a zombie movie, but it's a comedy movie. It's really funny. So it's kind of like, I can watch that and watch that and it always makes me laugh. And so it's kind of like, have those, maybe even like write it out. If you know that you fall prey to this low energy quite often. Oh my goodness, no, he's Cancerian. I'm thinking about one of my friends who's Cancerian who, bless the water signs, you're all so empathetic, right? It's really hard to not take on all that energy as your own. And so this person, they find it really hard to be upbeat. They're a particularly negative person. And so I've said things to them like, what you think about, you bring about, like power of positive thinking. And like, it's just not who they are as a person at this time. And so, but I can't be around them, right? I can't always be there to pick them up when they're sad, because it brings my energy down to that sad level. And it's kind of like, I know that because I've tried in the past, nothing I can do is going to help them get out of that funk. It's part of their process, it's part of who they are and where they are right now. And if I'm going to give them advice and they're not going to take it, then I can't keep being their emotional battery, because my battery is going to get drained. So that's something about boundaries there, I think. They're showing me like plugging in, but plugging into the light, like plugging yourself into the sun, right, as an energy source. So it's kind of like God energy can't be depleted is the way it's coming through. Make of that what you will. So somebody who has endless light to give, like they cannot be depleted. So if you do find that you're getting depleted, and again, it's very hard if you have a loved one around you who is particularly going through a depressive state, or who is particularly negative, but you love them, right? You're not going to just abandon them. It's like you have to be there for this person. Maybe have, like pieces of paper with things written on that you put in a hat for yourself. Or even like a list of activities and like a 20-sided die, and you can roll the die and then like do that activity. So whether it's kind of like activities like go for a walk or have a shower, or have buy yourself an ice cream, or anything that's going to be a little thing that perks you up a little bit, that gets those serotonin levels going. Make a list of things and do it. So 20 things, 20-sided die, dead cheap off Amazon, or wherever you want to get it from if you don't like Amazon, and just do that and just force yourself. Yoga is really good for me. So when you roll it, force yourself to do that thing. And if you can't do it that day, say it's like go for a walk, but it's like lightning and floods outside, roll again and do the next thing that's possible. And just see how much better you feel. I went out for a big walk yesterday, even though I wasn't feeling great, and I just felt like I was a god by the end of it, because all those lovely chemicals and endorphins and those things that your body released when your exercise started going, and I felt amazing. So yeah, just you probably feel better at the end of it than at the start of it. So just do it and just make yourself do it, and make it a treat as well. Make it something that makes you feel good, or that you want to do, but maybe you don't have you don't make time for. You know, all work and no play makes Pisces a sad person. So it's kind of like, if your thing is writing, or if your thing is going to the gym, or if your thing is a specific computer game that you love to play, put it on the list. Okay, I'm going to stop and restart. We're going to finish off with emotions, thoughts, action space, past, present, future, and we're going to clarify that. So hopefully the reading is not going to be too long. We'll get into that now. Yeah, I was just getting a drink of water, and what I was being shown visually was again, things like media that is sensationalist and particularly venomous, you know, like if they have a venomous tone, you know, particularly critical of people. I remember kind of like in the 90s, you know, they're particularly nasty towards celebrities, you know, the whole Britney Spears thing where it's like, you know, she's got a bit of cellulite, she put on a bit of weight, she's not got that yummy mummy tummy, you know, it's like, fuck off. Let people exist without having to plaster the floors all over the newspapers, or the, you know, it's kind of like, there's other things in the world to worry about whether than somebody has a tiny bit of cellulite. Like, cellulite's a good thing. It's you know, women have it especially, you know, men can have it too, but it's not a design flaw, it's a design feature. Our body does it to store fat in case we need it, so we don't starve and die, right? It's kind of, it's good. It's things like pores, right? Like the beauty industry telling us to have a poreless complexion. You would die if you didn't have pores, because your body wouldn't be able to sweat, and you would overheat, and you would literally die. Like, we're meant to have pores, we're meant to sweat. That's a good thing. So, like, I don't know. There's something about that. So it was showing me kind of like, you know, these kind of doom and gloom news headlines, and how it creates paralysis in people. It creates apathy and paralysis in a society. So it's incredibly toxic. I wouldn't like to earn my money that way, right? I wouldn't like to feed into those kind of business practices, because I think they are particularly low vibrational. They want this one for you. This is the Guild Tarot by Kira Marchetti. Oh, here we go. Are we upside down? We're upside down. So the Ten of Pentacles has come out in reverse. So I did have that thing about love or money, right? Maybe you've got a choice of job and you could do what you love to do, but it's not well paid, or you know, something that's more of a regular income, but it saps the life out of you. We're in a really, what's that song? Can you hear it? I don't recognize it. Hopefully I'm not going to get copyright claimed. A car pulled up with a song playing. If you recognize that song, that might have been a message specifically for you, so make of that what you will. Whatever happens in a reading is part of the reading. Still upside down. So yeah, you know, a lot of the time, Queen of Pentacles, yeah, mother, provider, caregiver, very good with money, normally quite in quite a stable situation that she's created for herself, through her work, through her skills, through her business practices, through her relationships with other people that she engages with. She normally gets into a really, really comfortable position. So, you know, and then the King of Wands there, who's much more spontaneous. My dad was a Leo. He was a bit of an entrepreneur. He always had these mad business schemes going on. So I don't know if there's, you've maybe got a partner who's a little bit like that. I think I have a bit of my dad's energy. It's kind of like very enthusiastic about things for short periods of time, and then there's something else that catches your attention. It's like, oh, that's who I am now. That's my entire personality for the next couple of months, years. But yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. A lot of entrepreneurs have that creative and enthusiastic spark. And then the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles, they're more of the sustainers. So you find like the person who starts the business has more of that Wands energy. You know, they have this creative idea, they see a gap in the market, they're very enthusiastic, they throw a lot of energy behind getting something started and getting the ball rolling. But a lot of the time then it depends on the person. Someone might have a lot of fire and earth in their chart. My child, for example, You're very creative and very capable, which, you know, if that's you, absolutely blessed. But yeah, normally you have the fire energy who are the instigators, and then you have the earth energy who are the sustainers. You know, they fine tune and they manage the day to day. So the Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo placements and energies, they tend to be much more long term, right? And you know, they're the ones watering the trees. Like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius plant the trees. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn water the trees and prune the trees, and they're there for the long term. So yeah, both have a place. Okay, let's try and focus. And I think actually they can work together, but sometimes sustainer energy can sometimes stifle creative energy. So I find this myself. If I'm doing something that's a hobby, if I'm doing something because I'm enthusiastic about it and I used to create mods, for example, for computer games. And so I did it because I was enthusiastic and I was like learning and discovering. And I was like, what if I try this? What if I try that? You know, I have this vision, I have this idea of what I want, how I want this to work and how I want this game to play. So I'm going to create a modification for it. And so I create these computer files, computer programs that would change the way a game worked or the features of a game would work, and created my own gameplay in these games. And it was very fun for me, and I was very engaged and enthusiastic about it. And it'd be great that I could make a game play the way that I wanted it to, right? I could take the power into my own hands in that way. But you know, I would talk about this with my friends and they'd say, oh, you should publish that mod, you should publish that mod, I want that mod, I'd play with that. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'll try and put them online. And I was very honest with people from the start that you know, I'm creating stuff for myself that I'm sharing, and you can make use of it if you want to and do whatever you want with it. I'm not taking any kind of ownership of this. I'm just sharing my own creative process. And then, you know, I would, you know, lose interest in that and not really want to use that mod anymore. Maybe, you know, some official content would come out that I would like better, or another mod creator would create a very similar mod, but I would prefer their mod. And so, and you know, updates and patches would break the mods. And then it started to get into this feeling of maintenance, right? I was no longer creating something because I wanted it, because I had the drive to do it. I was maintaining it because other people expected me to maintain it. And it went from a hobby, a fun interest, to a job, and I lost enthusiasm for it. It kind of ruined it for me, and I stopped doing that. I still create mods for myself, but I don't tend to share them anymore, because I don't like that expectation, right, of something that has to be done versus something that I want to do. So there could definitely be something like that for you. It doesn't have to be the same topic, but there could definitely be something where it's like a hobby that's turning into a business. Perhaps they're showing me jewelry making. Perhaps you create your own jewelry. You think, oh, you know, I could make a business out of this, and then, you know, having to fulfill those orders and do it on time, it could be stressful rather than, you know, something that you used to do for fun. So yeah, just be wary of that. The Death card and the Devil showing up a lot. Again, Pluto in Capricorn, Death and the Devil. And it's funny, I started the reading talking about Pluto and how he's different to the Devil, right? And he's different to Death. Pluto is the gatekeeper of the underworld, for example. He's the businessman, the CEO of the underworld. He's not the person who brings death. He just, you know, deals with the souls after death. And then the Devil being a completely different character altogether. Calls me the Devil. You've had some songs about sin. You had Sin, Sin, Sin by Robbie Williams. And that, is it Dua Lipa song? He calls me the Devil. He makes me want to sin. If he knocks, I'll get up and let him in. Something like that. Okay, right. Try and focus. Try and focus. Guys, send me your focus energy. Pisces, past emotions, please. Past emotions for Pisces. Ace of Cups, unconditional love. This is your energy, so this is probably coming from you. It could also be something that you feel like you're experiencing, you feel like is being given to you, but you emotionally are in this unconditional love energy. It could be that you've fallen in love with a new person. Again, the Ace of Cups might come out if a new person's in your life. So if you have a child, if you have a baby, this is the perfect time for the Ace of Cups to come out. It doesn't even have to be a person, it can be a thing. You know, I have so much love for this hobby. I have so much love for this situation, for this job, maybe. I feel like with the eye there and the phases of the moon, you're maybe thinking, how long is this going to last? Or this is something that is timeless, or, you know, this idea of like unconditional love being timeless, being forever. But there's a visualization here. There's a investigation of what love is and what unconditional love is. But this is what you're feeling, right? You're feeling like you want to explore new feelings, is how I would read that. And again, we will clarify, and that's in the past, in your emotions. So what was going on, please, for sorry that you can't see that very well up there. What was going on in the past in Pisces' thought space, please? The sun. Oh my God, whatever this was lighting you up inside. It's kind of like falling in love, right? You fall in love and the sun's brighter, the plants are more colourful, the birds sing more sweetly. It's kind of like the process of falling in love releases all these happy chemicals, and just everything feels so good all of a sudden. The sun is showing me that your thoughts were really bright, that your thoughts were high vibrational. This is one of the most high vibrational cards in the entire tarot. You had a lot of clarity. You felt like you were seeing things clearly, you know, in the light of day. And there's also this feeling of freedom. You're not feeling that, you're thinking that. These are happy thoughts and beautiful new feelings of, new feelings of feelings. You were going through something that felt really good in the past. And what was going on in Pisces' action space, though? 10 of Cups. You can't get better than that. Like, I don't want to carry on in this reading because you're having all the best cards right at the start of the reading. The 10 of Cups is showing me that you were in some kind of situation that felt like happy families. Now, it might have been a family, it might have been a community, it might have been a really happy workplace, it might have been siblings, it might have been friends, it might have been romantic partners, but the 10 of Cups is happiness shared with others. So situationally, in your actual, this isn't just thoughts and feelings, this was showing up in your reality. This was something that you were experiencing. You've got 3 of the best cards there in your emotions, thoughts, and action space in the past. Something was making you feel really good, and you felt like you were part of something. You felt like you found the place where you belong. You felt like you were being accepted. You loved it. How are you feeling now, Pisces? How are you feeling now? Deceptive or deceived. Because this is your energy, I would say that you feel sneaky. You feel like you've got something to hide. You feel a little bit guarded. This can come out. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. I always say the 7 of Swords could come out if you were planning a surprise party, right? Because you're being secretive, you're being sneaky, you know, sneaking out to buy the cake, you know, that sort of thing. So just because you're feeling sneaky doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. But we will get more clarifiers on that. What's going on in your thoughts? Is that definitely in the reverse? Let me just check. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I want to say it's reverse. That's 2 times it's gone in the reverse. The 6 of Swords normally is, especially mentally, because it's swords, Normally the Six of Swords is leaving a bad situation behind and moving on to something better. So you've been through the storm, basically. You've been through a stressful situation, an uncomfortable situation, a situation that's no longer right for you. So you're moving forward into calmer waters. Sometimes you can't see. The interesting thing about this is normally someone else is steering the boat, but you're the one steering the boat here. But with it being in reverse, I don't know if there's some self-deception going on here. Pisces, you are a sign that tends to wear rose-tinted glasses when looking at the past. You tend to think of the past as being, you tend to cherry pick the past and just look at the good. Again, depends on your full birth chart. You may have, you know, a lot of maybe slightly more negative or critical placements, which would mean that you wouldn't necessarily do that as much as a Pisces who has a lot of lovey-dovey, watery energy going on in the sign. But yeah, this is looking to me like I don't know if you feel like you're deceiving yourself. It's like, I feel like I'm deceiving myself, so I need to revisit this. So you're thinking, I need to go back, I need to revisit this, I need to look at this again. I can't leave this situation yet. There's something I haven't done yet. There's something I need to stick around for. But again, just be wary of emotional self-deception. We'll get some clarifiers as we kind of move on. Queen of Wands. This Queen of Wands is definitely this energy. And this is showing as you. So you're feeling very... If this is resonating, this is showing me that you're... Do you know what actually this feels like? Because it's in your action space. So just because you're showing up like this doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going on internally. So it could be something where you're being seen as very attractive. You're being seen as very confident. You're being seen as very creative, very empowered, very courageous. All these energies that come through the Queen of Wands. Normally she's very, very magnetic and attractive. So a lot of people could really be seeing you like this at this time. You know, you could be being seen as an objective, you know, a sex object kind of thing. You may be finding yourself objectified, which you may object to, I don't know. But there could be something going on with you right now where people are seeing this kind of gorgeous, hot femininity about you. You could be very hot right now. But internally, it doesn't look like you're necessarily feeling it. You could feel like you're deceiving the world. So I did some work on camera this week, and I did the public facing work where I had makeup on. I actually had a wig on, and I have good lighting, and you know, everything is set up to be kind of like if you were doing a movie, right? You'd have the hairstylist people, you'd have the makeup people, you'd have the lighting people, but I'm there doing it all myself behind the scenes. And because it's like the presentation, right, which is a version of me that is much more polished, and much more kind of this is why I don't do when I'm doing tarot readings, I don't do it on I don't put my face on camera, because it's not about me, it's not about the way I look. I feel like that's a distraction from the messages that are trying to come through. It doesn't matter, right? I don't matter as the reader. All that matters is that I interpret the messages and communicate the messages to you guys. I'm just the fulcrum, right? So but in other pursuits that I do have camera work, and so to present like this, like a movie star, not that I think I look like a movie star, but like how a movie star is going to be, they're going to have all those resources to make them look a certain way for the camera, you know, to look particularly glamorous, like in full makeup and things like that. And then I had to do some kind of, when I was video editing, I had to do some more work that was voice work, and I didn't need to be on camera. I just had to record my voice, and so similar to what I'm doing now. But I just had my setup already there, kind of, but I had no makeup on. I had my hair tied up. The camera was at an awkward angle. I just had natural lighting. I didn't have my recording lighting. no makeup, bit sweaty because it's a bit humid again, and yeah, big bags under my eyes because I've got a bit of a cold and I didn't sleep well, and I looked awful, right? And I was looking at these two different videos side by side, like the frames from these videos, and I looked like two completely different people. And then neither of those people are deceptive. Neither of those are not me. They're just different versions of me, right? I have a lot of acceptance of like the range. It's like having a vocal range, right? To have a really, a really, like Mariah Carey, she's got like a really low vocal range and a really high vocal range. I have a visual range of like me looking my best and me looking really quite awful. And so I look at both of these and accept them both as me. I'm not under any false impressions about how I look, right? Because it's a craft, similar to how photographers and models, they work with like the posture and the lighting. They know how to stand. If you watch celebrities on the red carpet, right, they'll stop for the pictures and they'll do poses because they know how to move their body in a way that looks good for the cameras. But if you catch a celebrity kind of running out to get Starbucks, they were just, and they're not expecting to be pictured, they look very different. And so I think a lot of people have a visual range. And this is something that is perhaps the idea that we should look like at our best at all times is unrealistic unless you literally have movie star money and somebody running around with a hairbrush and makeup set after you. I was watching, actually, funnily enough, I don't know why this is coming through, but maybe somebody needs to hear it. If you are having trouble with coming to terms with how you look, and finding self-acceptance and finding something that you're comfortable with and judging yourself against celebrities, I really, really, really strongly recommend a channel on YouTube called Stephani Lang. I'll pop it up on screen, hopefully, if I remember. Yeah, just I'm going to wave to myself so I know that I have to stop the video at that point and do something. Yeah, so Stephani Lang, you could probably Google it just through the words, and she does all these videos that, yes, she is being quite critical of celebrities sometimes, but she does a lot of I think her and her partner are both kind of like personal trainers or nutritionalists or something like this, where they have a lot of stuff to do with like having a healthy body. And she's had problems with how she perceives herself with social media in the past, and she talks about this quite a lot. And she talks about how celebrities sometimes have this false narrative that they promote about themselves, and the reality is quite different. But she does it in a way where it's kind of like she's promoting self-acceptance, and she's promoting this idea that beauty, the beauty industry is an art form, right? Where like creating a beautiful painting, it takes work and it takes skill and it takes artistry. Not anyone can cut hair. Sometimes you have to go to a professional hairdresser to get a good result. And so it's something that you learn to do. So yeah, Stephani Lang, if you're having trouble with, expectations of how you should look versus kind of, being a human being with pores and cellulite that you're meant to have because it's a design feature, not a design flaw. And so, yeah, if anyone needs to hear it, because this looks like there's something going on here where perhaps you feel like you're deceiving the world because you're showing up like this. And perhaps it's like you look in the mirror and you don't see this. And there is natural beauty. Some people are blessed with, they jump out of bed, they splash some water on their face, and, they're gorgeous. Normally that's not a lifetime thing. You do get people who are beautiful I think humans are beautiful no matter kind of what they look like, kind of thing. But, typically, you do find people who are particularly blessed in the old genetics department. But, the idea of beauty, the concept of beauty changes. So what someone might find particularly beautiful in one decade may not be desirable in another decade. And, how you look when you're 15 may not be how you look when you're 50. Youth is something that's considered particularly beautiful, but not every person who's beautiful at 15 will look beautiful as they age. So based on society's expectations. So yeah, I feel like there's something here where you feel like something about the way you're showing up is deceptive. Maybe you just don't feel as confident. It doesn't even have to be about beauty or the way you look. Maybe you just don't feel as confident as people think you are. This could be a bit of faking it till you make it. You walk into the room all dressed up, you seem really confident, but inside you're like, God, I hope nobody notices that I didn't prepare for this speech at work or something like that. What's that? The devil. Yeah, I want to say this is something about your own inner devil, right? This is like, I used the term evil Jiminy Cricket this week. The evil Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder saying you're a fraud, you're a fake. Maybe you've got imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome. I blame my Lilith in Capricorn placement for that. I'm like, don't pay me for my time. My time's worthless. It's like it's an ongoing lifetime thing that I have to get over. And I have learned to be like, I need to be compensated for my time. My time is valuable. That's something that I've been learning. And it's not, because I see money as being dirty, right? I see money as being like the devil's thing. I see a lot of corruption around money. I don't like the way our society can be very materialistic and can value success in terms of what car you drive, what trainers you wear. I don't think wealth translates to being a valuable person. I think having a valuable soul is more important than having a good bank balance. And so I do always find I have a problem with money, basically. But then like Queen of Pentacles energy, so that teaches us that you can be a provider, you can be the solid oak for the people that you love. You can provide for people, you can put a roof over people's head and food on the table, and not just any food but nutritional food, because you can afford it, right? I think salad is expensive because it doesn't keep, right? So a lot of parents who don't have a good income, they might resort to chicken nuggets, because you can get a bag of chicken nuggets for £1, right? And they're not going to go out of date. Where if I bought a load of salad, it'd be £30 and I'd be throwing it in the bin in 3 days if we didn't eat it. So yeah, all these kind of things coming up. I don't know. Where do we go from here? I don't know why that came through. Evita had that kind of problem where she felt like she was deceiving people, right? You must love me. This isn't where I intended to be. You must love me. Yeah. Like the shock of that, like, you actually love me. Emotionally in Pisces' future, where is Pisces going to be emotionally? Did that flip? Yeah, hiding. Married. I'm getting married in the morning. You're actually going to feel very secure. The Hierophant is a very traditional card. It's a very strong energy. So you may be feeling like you want to be particularly traditional. You may be feeling very, like, you're finding a lot of security in it's like it's kind of like the status quo. So by following the rule book, by doing things the right way, whatever that means to you, right? I'm not telling you what the right way is. This is going to be a cultural thing, dependent on how you were raised and things like that, and kind of like societal expectations. It's a very, very traditional conservative card, and you're going to be feeling secure in those values. Again, it would be sort of thing like, I feel more secure if I marry my partner, because this is how society is set up. I'm going to get tax breaks. I'm going to get, there's a rule book to life. If I follow this traditional path, it's like I have the rules. It's like I understand what I have to do, and I feel secure in that. Taurian energy. I don't know if you've got Taurus in your chart. Thank God. Sorry, it looked like there was some workmen shouting in the street. So there they go. Um, yeah, there's the Queen of Pentacles again. So you could feel like this is at odds, right? You could have two different needs inside of you at this time. The need to be particularly very traditional, and perhaps, you know, um, following traditional values. You may find a lot of comfort in this, a lot of security in this. Life is predictable. It's kind of like the wishes of the Queen of Pentacles, versus the wishes of the Queen of Wands. So again, you may have both of these aspects in your chart, a lot of fire and earth. And so the need of the Queen of Wands to be desired and to have fun and to be spontaneous and to be creative and do what she wants to do in the instant, to say, throw the rule book out the window. We're going to innovate, we're going to just do what we feel like, we're going to trust our gut. So you could have a bit of a conflict between the two needs of these two different characters within yourself, right? And your needs don't have to be opposing. Your needs can be, both the needs are valid, right? You might want to be in a very traditional marriage, but you want to feel like you are sexy and your partner desires you. These things do not have to be opposing. It's interesting as well because you had that theme of love and money, and I would say the money is more of the this is more of the money aspect. The Queen of Pentacles, she's very good with money. The Hierophant, again, can rule things like even like tax and corporations and things like this. And Saint Teresa, who is much more demure and traditional. And then and then this energy, which is, I don't know, I've lost what I was saying there. I don't know. What's Pisces thinking in the future? What's Pisces thinking? I'm going to blend this together. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to create something new that is that draws from both of these aspects of myself, both from my need to be secure and traditional, but also my need to have fun. Again, it's that all work and no play energy. It's kind of like, because you've got squirrel, it could be definitely something to do with savings and like planning for the future. So it could even be things like you might be thinking about getting a mortgage at this time, or making some kind of like long-term financial commitment. And so this idea of kind of, but that's not fun, right? It's like it's a good thing to do. It's logical. It means my money aspect is going to be covered, but it's not fun. So I need to do this, but I need to do it in a fun way. It's kind of like tidying the house, but putting music on, right? It's kind of like, I'm going to do what I need to do because like this is of value to me, but it doesn't have to be boring. It's like a spoonful full of sugar. Yeah, Mary Poppins, right? Where she's like getting them to tidy the nursery, but they're singing and dancing while doing it. I'm terrible. I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD, so doing something like folding the laundry is incredibly boring to me. I feel like my brain is atrophying. So it's like I have to have like a YouTube video on or something, or like it's just so hard. It's just so hard. It's like something I have to really persevere with, so I don't wander off and do something else. Before I know it, I'm like scrolling social media. Okay. Action space in the future. The Emperor. It's hype, really traditional, and there's the Queen of Pentacles again. Yeah, this would be husband. It could also be boss. You're feeling very grounded. You're feeling very patient. You're feeling very secure. Because the Emperor is coming through as you, so you're actually showing up in a more typically masculine energy. So you may be the provider, right? You may be playing the more traditionally masculine role. So where it used to be like the wife would stay home and raise the babies, the guy would go out to work. You could be the one that's like the main provider. You could be earning the main money in your household. The Emperor has full command. With the Empress at his side normally. It doesn't have to be. You can have two Emperors, for example, or Empress and Emperor are perfectly capable of doing things on their own. But normally, if the Empress shows up with the Emperor, it's equal. They just bring different energy to the table, right? But there's a respect there. There's a mutual understanding because they're on the same wavelength. But the Emperor, Aries energy, particularly can be Taurus, but it's mainly Aries. Again, this is the initiator, this is the leader, this is the uh, dynamic person. And the brilliant thing about the Emperor and the Empress, depending on how you want to see yourself, they are all four queens or all four kings of the tarot. So where the Queen of Pentacles, for example, or the Queen of Wands, they're great at their own domain, right? They're really good at what they do. Queen of Pentacles, very, very skilled. Queen of Wands, very, very creative and passionate. You also have the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups, who are the masters of emotion and the masters of logic and communication. And so when you get an emperor or an empress, they are all four queens or all four kings embodied. They've mastered all the different aspects of their personality in that way. And so they're very, very empowered. So you're showing up really, really in full control of yourself, with a lot of skills and talents and aspects to bring to whatever situation you're bringing that to. And you could indeed be getting married, possibly, if that's something that you're interested in doing. And again, this could be the proposal, this could be the marriage, this could be the weird self-doubt moment in the middle. Yeah, let's go for the Witch's Oracle for confirmation. So what made you feel like the Ace of Cups? What was going on externally that gave you that Ace of Cups energy in the past? Ace of Wands. Yeah, that's feminine and masculine. Cups is women's bits. Wands is men's bits. Doesn't have to be. But yeah, that it looks like there's definitely something new happening. You loved it. I don't know what that new thing was. The Ace of Wands is somebody who's coming towards you and they're feeling very excited. They've got something new to offer. They're very inspired. They're very creative. They're very enthusiastic. A lot of energy to this. You loved it. Whatever this was, you loved it. So again, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it definitely can be. This is butterfly is symbolic of change. Again, there could be some kind of change coming in, and you seem like you're really on board emotionally with whatever this is. And these emotions coming towards you are just so enthusiastic. It's very, very new, very exciting, very fun, especially with the sun in your thoughts. So why is the sun in your thoughts? I mean, it could be making a baby, honestly. The Ace of Cups and the Ace of Wands. The sun in your thoughts. Yeah, you feel like you've got a lot of freedom. You feel like you've got a lot of choices. Basically, this is somebody coming to you very enthusiastically with something new. And you're thinking about all your options. You're thinking about all your choices. It could be that this person chooses you, because this person on the Seven of Cups card, he's not looking at any of these other cups. He's looking at you. And you're holding this big gold cup, right? You're showing with this big gold cup of emotions, like you've got a lot to give, like you've got a big heart, you've got a lot to offer. And so he's like not interested in any of these other inferior silver cups, right? So he's like, I want your cup, Pisces. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be that you're being chosen for a new job, right? But this is not just a job with one opportunity. This is a whole host of paths that could open up to you. It's kind of like when you get chosen, it opens a lot of doors, is how that feels. So you have this feeling of, with the Sun card, it's like a lot of freedom of choice and a lot of excitement and happiness. Like you feel really free with whatever this is, but this is in your past, so this should have already happened for you. And then the Ten of Cups. What is the Ten of Cups? Ten of Wands. So you feel really good. There could be somebody around you who has a lot of responsibilities. It could be that there's this Emperor, Empress figure, because it does feel like there's somebody else around you who's a match to you. This is somebody with a huge amount of responsibilities, but they're almost home, right? They're almost ready to put those responsibilities down. We could be talking about someone who's possibly retiring. So maybe a job position is coming up that you might be chosen for. It could also be that somebody needs help with their responsibilities. And again, it's this lovely community energy of everybody working as a team. You've got two tens. Tens do talk about things coming to an end. Things wrapping up, like it's this energy of fulfillment, like we've done what we came here to do, but it is collective, and it does feel like one person, I feel like somebody outside of you could have been shouldering a lot of burdens and responsibilities on behalf of everybody else in this situation. It's like they want to again, it's that feeling of like, this is the person who goes out to work every day and works the 9 to 5 so that the family can be happy, right? Because that's their responsibility. Could be something like that. Okay, going quite quickly now. The Seven of Swords. Why are you feeling sneaky? So the situation outside of you feels like there's something missing. There's something that's not fulfilling. I want to say there's something that's not fulfilling anymore, because in the past you felt like this was very fulfilling and now it no longer is. So whether the situation itself has changed or you've changed situations, emotionally you've got this kind of cloak and dagger energy because you're not feeling fulfilled. Like the situation isn't, it's like I'm hearing it's not all it's cracked up to be. So the Eight of Cups does talk about needing to leave to search for something that you're not getting from that particular place. It could just be that the novelty wore off in a situation, right? There was a lot of fun, there was a lot of excitement, but the novelty's worn off. I am a little bit worried about that Seven of Swords. Let me just go to another deck. Why is Pisces feeling Seven of Swords? Patience, Magician. So it feels like there's a long time, like something's taken a long time to manifest. Like you were trying to make something happen, but again, it's that sustainer energy, right? The patience energy. It's like the manifestation's taking a long time to come through. So maybe it's a case of you feel like you deceived yourself, like you saw an opportunity, you saw something really good, but it's taking so long to get there that you feel like maybe you dreamt it, or you feel like it wasn't real, or you feel like, you know, you deceived yourself in some sort of way about this. But I want to say there's just something about it taking a long time, because it's kind of like, slow cooker, and like when the meat falls off the bone kind of thing, and then it's really delicious because you've cooked it so slowly. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but I've had pulled pork in the past, and really slow cooked chicken and things like that, where it's like really juicy and delicious. So it's kind of like it's going to be better because it's taken a long time. If it was rushed, it might be like burnt on the outside, like a barbecue, right? Like a barbecue sausage, it might be really burnt on the outside and then kind of like not properly cooked on the inside. So if it's taking a long time to cook, it's not that the manifestation isn't happening, it's just that it's not quite there yet. Perhaps. So what's this reversal? What's this kind of like not moving on, going back? Nine of Pentacles. So whatever these thoughts are, they seem to be provoked by somebody else doing really well on their own. So you're looking at somebody else who has a certain level of financial independence, a certain amount of, they probably take care of themselves really well, right? They probably do go and get the haircut every 6 weeks. They probably do go and, they have the nice clothes and things like that. This is somebody who's quite financially stable outside of you. They've got quite a lot going for them. They seem very, very capable, but they're independent. And for some reason, this person is causing you to kind of review the past, or refuse to move forward. And then you're showing up as the Queen of Wands. So what is the external factor here? The Tower. Again, it could be a surprise party. Somebody else is really going through something, or there is a situation outside of you that's very turbulent. Again, this could be where those big changes are happening. So funny because of what I was talking about, right? And I don't want to kind of say it again, but I was talking about watching the news all those years ago. So a situation that's a massive shock. Again, that Pluto energy, it's very turbulent, a very turbulent situation. There could be a lot of high emotions around it. But you're showing up with like a lot of command. You're showing up as being very secure and authoritative. So it's sort of like the police woman showing up, like say there's like say you're out and you're at a bar and a bar fight breaks out. This is kind of like the landlady standing up, or the authoritative cop coming in, or even the person on stage. Do you ever see that, where there's like a performer on stage and something will be happening in the crowd and the performer will just stop, and they'll say, stop, I'm not going to continue until this situation gets sorted out. And it's like that person's authority and magnetism uh draws attention to that thing. So let me get one more on the Tower, because this is your current situation. So this is really turbulent. So again, if I had the Six of Swords in the upright with the Tower, that's like you saying, I'm bailing out, I'm getting out of the situation, every man for itself kind of thing. But you're not, actually. You seem to be taking control in a situation that you're refusing to. It's like you're refusing to walk away from a situation that's gone horribly wrong, because you see the need for a strong leader in that moment. It's kind of like stepping up in the right moment. Who am I reading for? I feel like I'm reading for like a president or a politician or something, like, who's a Pisces? I don't know who's a Pisces. Like in the UK, we're dealing with a Taurus and somebody who's like Virgo with a lot of Libra placements, presumably. America, I know one of the candidates is a Gemini. I don't know the other candidates' star sign. So I don't know where the Pisces energy is coming through. So what about this Hierophant? It has a little bit of a feeling of, chaos is a ladder. What is he called? Littlefingers in Game of Thrones. The right person at the right time can step up, but is this crisis engineered? I don't know if this is a personal reading or if I've dipped into something else. Because sometimes what happens when people are vying for power. Let's talk about movies, right? Let's not say this is reality, but sometimes when people are vying for power, they can manufacture an emergency, they can manufacture a crisis. And when everybody's losing their heads, right? When everybody's scared, that person can step up and say, I'm the savior, I have the solution, follow me, I'm the strong leader that we need in this moment. And this can be a vie for power. And I wouldn't say that's something that Pisces is. My Pisceans, you're beautiful people, you wouldn't normally do that, but we have got that Seven of Swords being sneaky. So I don't know if it's necessarily, there may be something more collective coming through here than a personal reading, because I don't normally see this about Pisces. But what normally happens is there'll be scaremongering, especially in like the news and the media. They'll do the scaremongering. Oh my goodness, scary, 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 scary things. We need to bring in all these control things. Think about like when that big event happened, all the changes that were made to going on a flight, right? Like all the changes that were made to airports. And sometimes what happens in response is like certain more traditional people who hold power will use this to bring in legislation that is more controlling and more oppressive. So you could look at this. I think Theresa May did this a little bit, where she really she brought in a lot of police powers, while her party was also cutting the numbers of police. Like they reduced the numbers of police but gave them more powers, which could be seen as more authoritative and more, it's definitely something that's done by, again, not saying anything about any specific political party, but it's definitely something that's done historically through more tyrannical parties. They bring in more I'm trying not to say that word. They bring in more traditional values. Because when we're scared as a society, as people, when we're scared, we retreat to what we find familiar, right? So when we're scared, we want to run back to our childhood home, or run back to our parents, or, run back to a safe space. And so that can include an emotional response where I'm scared because there's big changes coming in, right? I'm scared by these big changes. And then what people can also do is, because they're scared and they don't know what to do, they surrender their autonomy, they surrender their power, and they put their trust in people who seem very capable and strong in that moment, because it's reassuring, right? It's like, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. So someone stands up and says, I know what to do, follow me, I have the answers. People go, okay, here, I put my trust in you, I put my faith in you. You have the power, because I don't want it, because I'm scared I'm going to do something wrong with it. And that can be abused. That can be something that is manipulated, right? Is this that situation though, or is this more of a higher power situation? Again, more religious parties, more religious leaning groups are more likely to gain power when people feel unstable, because people lean back on those traditional values. And because sometimes when things feel chaotic and you feel like you haven't got any control, all that you can do is pray. Again, I want to really avoid talking about any specific situations or current political parties. I'm talking more historically. Again, my degree means that I've got a lot of knowledge of history and political situations. How political parties work, how propaganda works, how voting has worked in different societies. So tell me about that Hierophant. Karma and the Sun. There's a situation or a person outside of you that is getting some really, really good karma, because they have been a source of light. They have been a source of goodness, and a symbol of freedom, a symbol of hope. And the karma is coming back around for this. So it's good karma to be a positive person who gives people hope in dark times. And so somebody is receiving, or a situation is receiving, very, very high positive karma because of this, or generating high positive karma because of this. Someone is choosing to be a light bringer. And the karma card is also the judgment card in this deck. So it's a fresh start. It's a revivification. Tell me about temperance. Why is temperance here in Pisces' thoughts? Temperance, temperance, temperance. And you had temperance somewhere else as well, didn't you? Where else was temperance? It came out somewhere else, didn't it? You've had it 3 times from 3 different decks. Patience, 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 patience. It's like play the long game. Play the long game and mix the energies. Just because it's traditional doesn't mean it can't be transformed. It's funny because I was thinking about rainbows, because I was thinking about there's a political party in South America who did very, very well. There was a particularly authoritative leader. I don't know the full details of this. It's kind of out of my what would you say, my pool, my fishing pool of knowledge, but I had heard of it. But they basically, this person had been, this political power had been in power for a very long time, and it was quite conservative, and it was seen as quite unshakable. But society had gone through some troubling times, and I think people were not very happy. You know, people were finding things very difficult. And so the opposing political system ran a campaign based on hope and positivity, and they used a rainbow as the symbol for their campaign, and they won. And it's the power of hope, right? The power of offering people an alternative to the thing that has not been working. And that's how you kind of defeat more tyrannical powers, is by offering a positive choice. Well, there's two methods there, right? There's the method of scare tactics and offering something traditional, and you don't have to make decisions, we'll make decisions for you, give us your power. But also, you know, there is a better way of doing things if you just have hope and you have faith, and put good energy into it. It's kind of like why Labour won the election when they used D Ream's Things Can Only Get Better. You know, it's a really, really positive song. You know, there was a lot of hope in that song. I didn't want to do anything about specific politics, but it seems like, I mean, it's in the collective energy. Like, the UK election is tomorrow. A lot of people are thinking about it, so I'm not surprised that this theme would come through in this reading. But I want to avoid making any predictions, because again, when I did try and project, I was just showing this spinning pen. Maybe I don't want to influence anyone, because I think it's really important to make your own decisions and choose your own reality. Knight of Swords, Seven of Swords. Okay. The Emperor. So you're showing up as the Emperor. This person in full control. Very authoritative. Very empowered. Prepared to lead. In the future. What's going on around you? Slightly miser energy. Excuse me. It's almost like somebody who's like refusing to let you in or refusing to leave, right? It's kind of like they've got all the stuff with them. The Four of Pentacles is very guarded. I see it as Taurus and Cancer energy. Very, very guarded, very shielded. This is somebody who's holding on to what they have. Something a little bit greedy about it. It can talk about saving money, like being a bit of a miser, refusing to spend. So you're dealing with somebody who's in this energy. But there's something about changing somebody's perspective, changing this. I think you have a duty in the future to change the perspective on what people value and why they value it. Yeah, Star. This feels very divine. I've seen this card twice now. Aquarius. The Hangman is Aquarius energy, and the Star is Aquarius energy, like choice. Like, what do you choose and why? What do you value and why? Because you can see on the Hangman card, which is really just about being held up. So you're given enough time to think about a situation and change your perspective. And it's interesting because you've got all this temperance energy, which is this patience energy. So it's kind of like, if you're experiencing any hold-ups, any blockages, any delays, this time is a gift, right? The delay is a gift because it's giving you time to think on a situation where if you're quite rushed, you don't really have time to think, right? So you just have to make a choice sometimes without any thought. You know, you have to make a choice on the spot. But when you sit there and all you have is time, you know, and you let your mind run into that Piscean imagination daydream space, you know, you can find solutions, you can find answers, you can find different perspectives. And so what's interesting here is this crow is offering him a pentacle, but he's not really looking, he doesn't seem very interested in it. Where here it's like, it's all he cares about is the pentacles. He's sat on one, he's got his arms crossed over this one, he's got one foot in both of these. But here, when somebody's trying to give a pentacle, there is no interest because of this change of perspective. So the pentacles being something material that's valued may not be as valuable again once someone thinks about things differently. And again, your reading started with this contrast and juxtaposition between love and money. So it could be like, I don't need money because I've got love, or I no longer place, and I'm no longer so interested in clinging to my things and my stuff, because my things and my stuff mean nothing if I don't have the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Wands, which are more energetic. They're more of a feeling, they're more of a way of being, rather than being miserable but having a lot of things. Look how miserable he looks. Reminds me of like Robert De Niro in that Ben Stiller movie, Meet the Fockers. Okay, let's do you a song to close out the reading. Like I said, you had a lot of songs with the theme of love and money. You had Rich Girl by Gwen Stephani this morning. Pisces. Can you guide Pisces, please? Guide Pisces. Okay. I can't make up my mind if this is a parody account of Lana Del Rey or if it's a fan account, because it's kind of like, I guess it's like a fan account, but it's very it's basically like, oh God, Spa. Why are you advertising Spa to me? It's very Luca Del Mar is like Lana Del Rey, right? And then he also lists Lizzie Grant, which is Lana Del Rey's previous name that she used to release music under. And the songs sound very similar to Lana Del Rey, but they're not. And Lana Del Rey, even if you look at her bio, she links to Luca Del Mar. So I don't know what the relationship is between them. But he only has 270 monthly listeners. Yeah, I think it's a like a fan account. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe make a fan account, make a tribute act for something that you love. Perhaps. I'm just going to listen to this off camera, and then I'm going to kind of explain what I'm hearing to you. I don't know. It's a funny one. It's an interesting one. What I would say is I asked for kind of advice and guidance for you, and there's a big word there. So if you're making a choice between one thing or another, there seems to be a big billboard there. Let me just randomize one more time. And now you've got the Bleachers, which is interesting because Lana Del Rey is associated with Jack Antonoff and from the Bleachers, and Luca Del Mar lists Jack Antonoff as one of his inspirations. The Bleachers, maybe it's something about like actual bleachers. So the song is Hate That You Know Me. Let me just Google it. Hate that. I can't pull the lyrics up on Spotify anymore. They've put them behind a paywall, which I think is bad business of them, because I don't think you should charge for something that was previously free. I think there used to be like laws around doing that. It's like, if a service, like, add to the service, right? Add add-ons that are charged, but don't make a service that was previously free locked behind a paywall, because it's kind of like deceiving your customers. It's like changing the rules of what they've initially signed up for, which I think destroys trust in a business. For me, it's kind of like, well, I can't trust you to make other changes now. D&D Beyond did it as well recently, which is like a D&D website. They used to have individual purchases of like individual things, and then they took that away and they don't have it anymore. And I'm like, well, I signed up to your service based on the original premise, and now I don't really feel like I'm getting what I signed up for. I don't know. It's shady, and I think it just destroys trust in a business, right? It's not a good way for a business and a consumer to operate. It's greedy. Yeah, Hate That You Know Me by the Bleachers. I've been talking to strangers, acting like I'm a stranger. Look, I've been up all night, and you know what? I hate it. I put my things into boxes, carry all of my old lies, rubber band in my past time, and you know what? I hate it. Long way down, you're such a heart attack, but it feels like pressure points. The pressure you right back. They pressure you right back. Come on, think about it. Sometimes I hate that you know me so well. Sometimes I hate that you know me so well. Some days I wish that I wasn't myself. No, look, and I hate that you know me so well. Wash the fear from my hands off. Count mistakes in the sidewalk. Act like I've been up all night, and you know what? I hate it. So I keep talking about 18 because I can't let go of the same dream. Rubber band in my pastime, and you know what? I hate it. I don't know if there's this idea of like holding on to an old dream, like refusing to let go of an old dream. It's interesting because you've had a lot of this Queen of Pentacles energy, and I think the Devil card popped out a couple of times. Capricorn, Nine of Pentacles is Capricorn. If you've got any Capricorn placements, maybe go and check out their reading. They have this thing about persevering with something that was constantly losing the money. Kind of, it's like they were pouring something into something and not letting go of it, and they it was like pouring money down a drain kind of thing was the way it looked like to me. It's from what I remember from the reading. They kept on getting Five of Pentacles. So I don't know if there's something in that. Like a dream or a hobby or a pastime that you keep on returning to and you refuse to let go of, even though... So maybe that's a different perspective on the Capricorn reading, this idea of kind of, well, it doesn't matter if I'm wasting money on it. It doesn't matter if this isn't profitable. What matters is that I love it, right? Because that has more value to me than the money. So it's kind of like indulging in an expensive hobby, I guess, but having soul growth through it and having a love and a passion for it, which is where the value is, right? Which is where the worth is. Because worth and value, right, in cash, it's all just a trade. It's all just, you know, here's something for something else. So, you know, people get paid for their time, right? People get paid for their talent. It's just commerce. It doesn't have to be money, right? You could pay for a cup of coffee with a painting, you know. Well, you know, hypothetically, don't try that. All right, I'm gonna go. Value what you value, love what you love, and I hope this reading was helpful to you. Please take care of yourselves, Pisces. I will see you again soon. Bye.